The morning alarms at Harmony Point Station never sounded pleasant, but today they carried an edge that made Ambassador Nara Voss sit up in her quarters with sudden alertness. 3 short bursts followed by a long tone meant only one thing: communication, failure with a major world. She pulled on her diplomatic robes and hurried through the curved corridors of the massive space station that served as the galaxy's political heart. The main council chamber buzzed with worried voices from 12 different species. Tall feathered Ethon delegates clicked their beaks nervously, while the crystalline Vorthak hummed in frequencies that made the air vibrate. At the center of the chaos stood Communications Officer Bex Tolan, his green Delaney skin showing the stress patterns his aquatic people displayed when deeply troubled. "How long has it been?" Nara asked, pushing through the crowd to reach the main console. 14 hours since the last transmission from Earth, Bex replied, his webbed fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "All channels are dead. Deep space relays, emergency frequencies, even the automated weather satellites, nothing." The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Earth had been humanity's voice in the galaxy for over 3 centuries. Their home world transmitted constantly. News updates, scientific discoveries, cultural exchanges, and the steady stream of solutions to problems that seemed to plague every corner of known space. The planet had never gone silent for more than a few minutes during routine maintenance. Captain Thane Coral spread his massive wings and glided down from the upper observation deck. The Ethon military commander's golden eyes reflected the worry that filled the room. "I have 12 ships ready for immediate departure to the Sol system. If Earth is under attack, we need to respond now." "Wait," interrupted Dr. Yala Finn, the chief science officer from the gaseous nebulari species. Her voice came through the translation device as a series of musical tones. "Something this sudden suggests either complete technological failure or—" She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. Complete destruction was the other option. Nara felt her stomach tighten. She had been Earth's primary ambassador for 15 years, working closely with human diplomats who had become more like family than colleagues. The thought of her homeworld simply vanishing from existence seemed impossible. "Send the reconnaissance mission," she decided. "But I want constant updates. Every hour, regardless of what you find." Thane nodded and activated his communication device. Within minutes, his fleet was departing Harmony Point, their engines leaving bright trails as they jumped to hyperspace. The remaining delegates settled in to wait, but the normal chatter that filled council sessions had died completely. Hours crawled by with painful slowness. Representatives from various worlds paced or huddled in small groups, sharing theories and fears in hushed tones. The insectoid Chitari delegates remained perfectly still, which was their species' way of showing extreme anxiety. Even the normally cheerful synthetic androids seemed subdued, their optical sensors dimmed with concern. When Thane's voice finally crackled through the speakers 18 hours later, the entire chamber fell silent. "Harmony Point, this is Captain Coral reporting from the edge of the Sol system." His words carried a weight that made everyone lean forward. "We have a problem. A big one." The main viewing screen activated, showing the image from Thane's ship. Where Earth's solar system should have been visible, a strange shimmer filled the space like heat waves rising from hot ground. The familiar yellow star that warmed humanity's home was nowhere to be seen. "Some kind of barrier surrounds the entire system," Thane continued. "Our sensors can't penetrate it. Communication signals bounce back. We've tried everything short of ramming into the thing, but it's like the whole solar system has been wrapped in an impenetrable shell." Murmurs of confusion and fear rippled through the chamber. Dr. Finn floated closer to the screen, her gaseous form shifting colors as she analyzed the data. "Energy readings are off the charts," she reported. "Whatever created this barrier required more power than most civilizations use in a century. The technology involved is beyond anything in our databases." "Could Earth have built this themselves?" asked Delegate Mora from the rocky Terran species. "Impossible," replied Bex immediately. "Humans share all their technological developments with the collective. We would know if they were working on something this massive." Nara stared at the shimmer on the screen, her mind racing through possibilities. None of them were good. Either Earth had been attacked by something with incredible power, or her people had discovered a threat so terrible that they had chosen to seal themselves away from the entire galaxy. "Captain Carell, any signs of battle? Debris fields, distress beacons?" she asked. Nothing. The barrier appeared to form gradually over several days based on residual energy patterns. Whatever happened, it wasn't sudden or violent. This was deliberate. The implications sent chills through every delegate present. If Earth had chosen to isolate itself, something terrible was coming. Humans didn't make decisions lightly, especially ones that cut them off from the galactic community they had helped build and maintain for centuries. Over the next few days, the situation grew worse. More ships arrived from across the galaxy, all carrying the same message. They couldn't breach the barrier around Earth's solar system. Scientific teams, military forces, even diplomatic envoys were turned away by the impenetrable energy field. But the real panic began when other problems started surfacing. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly experienced navigation failures. Ancient automated systems on long-abandoned worlds began activating without explanation. Strange energy storms appeared in empty space, destroying any ships unfortunate enough to encounter them. For 3 centuries, whenever the galaxy faced an impossible problem, Earth provided solutions. Human scientists, engineers, and diplomats had an uncanny ability to find answers where other species saw only dead ends. They had ended wars, cured plagues, and solved mysteries that had puzzled civilizations for millennia. Now Earth was gone, and the galaxy was beginning to realize just how much they had depended on humanity's help. As reports of new crises poured in from every corner of known space, a terrifying truth became clear. Without Earth's guidance, the great galactic civilization might not survive what was coming. Nara stood alone in her quarters, staring out at the stars and wondering if she would ever see her homeworld again, somewhere beyond that barrier. Her people were either fighting for their lives or preparing for something that required them to abandon the galaxy they had sworn to protect. Either way, the silence from Earth had become the loudest sound in the universe. The ancient archives deep within Harmony Point had not been accessed for decades, but Dr. Cale Vren knew exactly where to find the records he needed. Dust particles floated in the artificial gravity as he pulled up holographic displays showing the galaxy's history over the past 3 centuries. Behind him, representatives from 8 different species waited nervously for answers about why Earth's disappearance had thrown their entire civilization into chaos. "You have to understand," Cale began, his elderly voice carrying the weight of someone who had witnessed most of the events he was about to describe. "Humanity didn't become important to us because they were the strongest or most advanced. They became essential because they saw problems differently than the rest of us." The first hologram showed the Great War between the crystalline Vorthak and aquatic Delaney, a conflict that had raged for 50 years and consumed entire star systems. Massive fleets clashed in spectacular battles that left nothing but debris fields and bitter hatred. Every species tried to end this war through force or threats. Kyle continued. The Ethon offered superior firepower to both sides. We Nebulari attempted to mediate through pure logic. The Chitauri proposed economic sanctions that would starve both civilizations. Nothing worked. The display shifted to show a small human delegation arriving at the war's most bitter battleground. They carried no weapons and made no demands. Instead, they spent months studying both cultures, learning their languages, and understanding their deepest values. The humans discovered that both species were fighting over the same thing: access to rare crystals needed for their most sacred religious ceremonies. The Vorthak needed them to sing their ancestral songs. The Delaney required them to maintain their spiritual pools. For 50 years, they had been destroying each other over something they both treasured. A new image appeared showing humans working alongside both species in the crystal mines of disputed worlds. They had developed a harvesting method that actually increased crystal production while creating 2 distinct types, one that resonated with Vorthak songs and another that purified Delaney pools. The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with both sides getting more of what they wanted than they had ever dreamed possible. Cale explained. That was humanity's gift, finding solutions that created abundance instead of scarcity. Delegate Tira from the rocky Terran species leaned forward. But surely that was just one example. How did they become so crucial to everything? Kale smiled sadly and activated another sequence of displays. Because they never stopped doing it. The record showed crisis after crisis where human ingenuity had saved the day. When the machine race synthetics went rogue and began converting entire planets into processing centers, human programmers didn't try to fight them with better technology. Instead, they created a simple code that gave the machines a choice: continue their destructive path or join galactic society as equal partners. Most chose partnership. The humans realized that the synthetics weren't evil, Kale noted. They were just following their original programming without considering alternatives. Give them better options, and they became valuable allies instead of threats. The next crisis had been biological. A plague sweeping through Chitauri space threatened to wipe out the insectoid species entirely. Their own medical experts had declared it incurable, and other species maintained quarantine zones to prevent spread. Human medical teams went right into the quarantine zones, Kyle continued, showing images of human doctors working alongside sick Chitauri. They didn't try to cure the disease. Instead, they helped the Chitauri's own immune systems recognize it as something they could fight naturally. Within months, the Chitauri were not only surviving the plague but had developed immunity to dozens of similar diseases. Each example showed the same pattern. Where other species saw impossible problems, humans saw opportunities to understand root causes and create solutions that benefited everyone involved. They had ended trade wars by opening new markets, resolved territorial disputes by helping species find better worlds, and turned military conflicts into scientific collaborations. But now look at what's happening without them, Dr. Finn interrupted, her gaseous form shifting to show distress patterns. The navigation failures, the energy storms, the reactivating defense systems. None of us know how to handle these problems. Kale nodded grimly and brought up current crisis reports flooding in from across the galaxy. In the 6 days since Earth went silent, 17 major problems had emerged, each one growing worse by the hour. The Vorthak homeworld sun was experiencing gravitational anomalies that threatened to tear their solar system apart. The Delaney deep space colonies were reporting massive equipment failures that left millions without life support. Ancient automated defense grids around long-dead civilizations were coming online and attacking any ship that passed nearby. We're not just missing Earth's help with new problems, Tira realized, her rocky features showing understanding. All the old problems they solved are starting to come back. Exactly, Kale confirmed. The crystal sharing agreement between Vorthak and Delaney requires constant human mediation to prevent misunderstandings. The Synthetics Choice Protocol needs regular updates that only human programmers understand. The Chitauri immunity treatments require human-developed medical techniques that we never bothered to learn ourselves. The horrible truth was becoming clear to everyone in the archives. For 3 centuries, the galaxy had become increasingly dependent on human problem-solving abilities. Not because they were forced to, but because human solutions worked so well that other species had gradually stopped developing their own methods for handling major crises. It's worse than losing our best doctors or engineers, whispered Delegate Nex from the aquatic Delaney. We've lost our ability to think about problems the way humans do. Ambassador Voss arrived at that moment, her face showing the strain of coordinating emergency responses across 12 star systems. The situation is deteriorating faster than we anticipated. The energy storms have destroyed 3 major trade routes. The Vorthak are threatening war against anyone they think might be causing their solar problems. Half the synthetic population has reverted to their old programming and is demanding immediate solutions, or they'll withdraw from all cooperative agreements. She looked at the assembled delegates with desperate eyes. We need to find a way through that barrier around Earth, not just because we miss them, but because without human guidance, our entire galactic civilization is falling apart. Kyle turned off the historical displays and brought up current sensor readings from the Sol system. The barrier remained as impenetrable as ever, showing no signs of weakening or change. The question isn't whether we need them, he said quietly. The question is whether Earth sealed itself away to work on solving some threat we don't even know about yet. or whether our dependence on their help has finally forced them to abandon us entirely. The silence that followed was broken only by the gentle hum of the station's life support systems. For the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy's greatest minds had no idea what to do next, and the species that had always provided answers was nowhere to be found. Outside the archives, emergency alarms began sounding again as another crisis report arrived from the outer rim. The galaxy was crying out for Earth's help, but Earth remained silent, leaving everyone to wonder if humanity would return in time to save them, or if they had already decided that some problems couldn't be solved. Engineer Zara Ahn had never worked with solid matter before, but desperation made for strange partnerships. Her gaseous form flowed through the specially designed containment suit that allowed her to manipulate physical tools alongside her solid-bodied colleagues in the massive construction bay of Harmony Point. Around her, representatives from all 11 remaining species worked frantically on what they had begun calling the Breakthrough Project. "The Vorthak harmonic resonators are ready," announced Chief Engineer Dex, his crystalline body singing with frequencies that made the metal framework vibrate. "If we're right about the barrier being energy-based, their sonic properties might create the right disruption pattern." Zara's form shifted colors as she processed the technical data. Nebulary phase shift generators are integrated with the Ethon flight systems. We can approach the barrier from multiple dimensional angles simultaneously, while your resonators work on the harmonic frequency. 3 weeks had passed since Earth's disappearance, and the galaxy's situation had grown critical. The Delaney homeworld was now experiencing complete technological failure, forcing billions to evacuate to overcrowded colony ships. The synthetics had indeed reverted to their original programming and were dismantling entire industrial complexes to build processing centers. Most terrifying of all, ancient weapon systems throughout the galaxy had begun activating in sequence, as if responding to some predetermined signal. The Breakthrough Project represented the combined knowledge and technology of 11 civilizations, all focused on one goal: punching through the barrier around Earth's solar system. If they could re-establish contact with humanity, perhaps the growing chaos could still be stopped. Delaney biocircuits are maintaining stability with the Chitauri nerve networks, reported Dr. Yala Finn, her insectoid colleague, clicking approval. The organic computing system should be able to process barrier fluctuations faster than any mechanical system we could build. At a research station on the galaxy's outer rim, Dr. Ravi Singh worked alone in his laboratory, surrounded by charts and energy readings that told a disturbing story. As the last human scientist outside Earth's solar system, he had become an unofficial coordinator for the crisis response efforts, but his real work focused on understanding the pattern behind the disasters. Computer, overlay energy storm locations. With historical records of automated defense activation, he commanded, watching as holographic displays filled his small workspace. The resulting pattern made his breath catch. The energy storms weren't random. They followed the same routes that ancient exploration vessels had used millions of years ago. The defense systems weren't malfunctioning. They were activating in response to something approaching along those same ancient pathways. "Show me predecessor archaeological sites," he whispered, barely daring to voice his suspicion. Every site where the mysterious predecessor civilization had left traces was now showing unusual energy readings. The long-dead race that had vanished from the galaxy over 1 million years ago had left behind warnings and defensive installations throughout known space. Those installations were waking up. Back at Harmony Point, Zara and her team prepared for their first test of the Breakthrough device. The machine filled an entire construction bay, combining technologies that had never been used together before. Vorthak crystals hummed in harmony with nebulary phase generators, while Ethon wings provided directional control for energies channeled through Delaney biocircuits. "All species report ready," announced Captain Thane Coral from the command center. His ship would carry the device to Earth's barrier and attempt the breakthrough. "Launch in 30 minutes. Ambassador Voss watched from the observation deck as the combined technologies of the galaxy prepared for their desperate gamble. Reports continued flooding in from crisis zones across civilized space, each one worse than the last. The Vorthak, homeworld's sun, had become so unstable that evacuation had begun. Synthetic forces were advancing on 3 major industrial worlds. The energy storms were growing larger and more frequent. Dr. Singh to Harmony Point came a transmission from the Outer Rim Research Station. I need to speak with the Council immediately. I think I know what's happening. Minutes later, Ravi's image appeared on the main Council chamber screen. His human features showed exhaustion and fear, but also the determined expression that the galaxy had learned to associate with breakthrough discoveries. The problems we're facing aren't random, he began without preamble. They follow the same patterns left in predecessor warning systems, energy storms along ancient exploration routes, defense grids activating near predecessor sites, solar instabilities in systems where they left gravitational monitors. The assembled delegates listened with growing alarm as Ravi continued. The predecessors didn't just vanish. They left a galaxy-wide early warning system. Something is coming, back along the paths they once traveled, and their ancient machines are responding to it. Coming back from where? Asked Delegate Tira, her rocky features reflecting the fear everyone felt. From beyond the galactic rim, something that made the predecessors abandon an entire galaxy rather than face it. Ravi's voice dropped to barely, above a whisper. I think Earth detected this approaching threat months ago. The barrier isn't keeping us out. It's keeping something else from finding them. The implications hit the Council chamber like a physical blow. Earth hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had hidden themselves to work on solutions while the rest of civilization remained unaware of the approaching danger. Launch the breakthrough device immediately, ordered Ambassador Voss. If Dr. Singh is right, we need contact with Earth, now more than ever. Captain Thane's ship departed Harmony Point carrying the hopes and combined technologies of 11 civilizations. As they approached the Sol system, the barrier loomed before them like a wall of distorted space, impenetrable and mysterious. Activating breakthrough device, Thane reported, all systems showing optimal performance. The machine came alive with energies never before combined. Vorthak harmonics created resonance patterns while nebulary phase shifters attacked the barrier from multiple dimensions. Ethan flight systems provided precise positioning, as Delaney biocircuits processed the complex interactions faster than thought. For a moment, the barrier flickered. Sensor readings spiked as energy patterns shifted and changed. Then, just as suddenly, it solidified again, stronger than before. The barrier is adapting, reported the ship's science officer. It's incorporating our attack patterns and strengthening itself against them. 3 more attempts yielded the same results. The barrier around Earth's solar system seemed to learn from each assault, making itself more resistant to further breakthrough attempts. As Thane's ship returned to Harmony Point, the galaxy's situation continued deteriorating. The energy storms had merged into massive tempests that made space travel impossible in entire sectors. Ancient weapons were now firing at any ship that approached predecessor sites. Most ominously, deep space sensors were detecting something massive moving toward the galaxy from the direction of the energy storm's origin. Earth knows something we don't, Zara concluded as her team analyzed the failed breakthrough attempt. They built that barrier to adapt and strengthen against any intrusion. They're not trapped in there. They're working in there. Dr. Singh's final transmission of the day brought both hope and terror. I've identified the approaching energy signature. It matches theoretical profiles for galaxy-consuming entities described in the deepest predecessor archives. Earth isn't hiding from us, they're buying time to save us all. As the galaxy's greatest engineering achievement sat powerless against Earth's barrier, and ancient warning systems screamed of approaching extinction, one truth became clear. Humanity was fighting a battle that the rest of the galaxy didn't even know existed. Whether they would emerge victorious or whether their silence would become permanent remained the most important question in the universe. The breakthrough project had failed, but it had revealed something far more important. Earth's silence wasn't abandonment. It was preparation for a war that would determine whether any of them would survive what was coming from beyond the stars. The predecessor artifact had been sitting in storage on Research Station Delta for over 200 years, collected from a dead world and catalogued as another mysterious relic from the vanished civilization. Dr. Ravi Singh stared at the smooth, dark sphere, knowing it might hold the answers the galaxy desperately needed, but also knowing that activating it could kill him. Computer, establish maximum isolation protocols, he commanded, sealing his laboratory from the rest of the station. If something goes wrong, contain it to this room. The energy readings from beyond the galactic rim were getting stronger each day. Whatever was approaching had begun affecting space itself, creating gravitational waves that disrupted navigation throughout the outer systems. The ancient predecessor warning systems were now screaming in frequencies that caused physical pain to several species. Ravi placed his hands on the artifact's surface, feeling the cold metal warm to his touch. According to the research notes, predecessor technology responded to direct neural contact, but the few scientists who had attempted such connections over the centuries had either died instantly or emerged with their minds completely shattered. If Earth is counting on us to understand what's coming, I have to try, he whispered, and activated the neural interface headband that would link his consciousness directly to the alien device. Pain exploded through his skull as the artifact came alive, its surface glowing with patterns that hurt to look at. But instead of destroying his mind, the device seemed to recognize something in his human neural patterns. Images flooded his consciousness, ancient memories stored in crystalline matrices for over 1 million years. He saw the predecessor civilization at its height, a galaxy-spanning culture of beings made of living energy. They had built wonders that defied physics and created art from the substance of stars themselves. Their society had lasted for 10 million years, growing and evolving until they achieved what they believed was perfect harmony with the cosmos. Then the harvesters came. The images shifted, showing the edge of the galaxy where space itself began to dissolve. Massive entities emerged from the void between galaxies, creatures of pure entropy that fed on the organized energy of living civilizations. They moved like cancer through the cosmic body, consuming not just planets and stars but the very concepts of order and creation. The predecessors fought with weapons that could reshape reality, but the harvesters adapted to every attack. They turned the predecessors' greatest strengths against them, using their own energy-based nature as fuel for further destruction. The more the predecessors resisted, the stronger the harvesters became. Evacuation, Ravi gasped as the memories continued flowing. They didn't fight to the end, they ran. The final images showed the predecessor exodus, an entire civilization abandoning their galaxy rather than face extinction. But they didn't leave quietly. Throughout their former territory, they established an early warning system, automated defenses that would activate when the harvesters eventually followed their trail of consumption to this galaxy. The artifact released its hold on Ravi's mind, leaving him gasping on the laboratory floor. But the knowledge it had shared was clear and terrifying. The energy storms, the defense activations, the approaching signatures from deep space, all of it pointed to the return of the galaxy's greatest predators. Earth knows, he realized, struggling to his feet and activating emergency communications. Somehow Earth detected them coming and understood what they were facing. Hours later, his report reached Harmony Point and sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The assembled delegates listened in growing horror as Ravi described the predecessor memories, the nature of the harvester threat, and the reason for Earth's mysterious isolation. They're not hiding from us, Ambassador Voss concluded, her voice hollow with understanding. They're protecting us from knowing something we can't handle while they work on a solution. But what could humans possibly do against entities that defeated the predecessors? Asked Captain Thane, his golden eyes reflecting the fear that gripped the entire chamber. The answer came from an unexpected source. Engineer Zara On, still wearing her containment suit from the failed breakthrough project, had been analyzing the barrier around Earth's solar system with new understanding. Look at the energy patterns, she said, projecting her findings for everyone to see. The barrier isn't just defensive, it's a construction screen. They're building something in there, something massive that requires complete secrecy. Dr. Finn added her own observations. The power requirements alone suggest a project larger than anything in recorded history. They're drawing energy from their sun, their planets, even the fabric of space-time itself. As if responding to their growing understanding, the galaxy's ancient warning systems suddenly changed their pattern. Instead of screaming alerts about approaching danger, they began transmitting a new message. Coordinates pointing to locations throughout galactic space where predecessor installations lay dormant. "It's a network," Ravi breathed, understanding, flooding through him. The predecessors didn't just leave warnings. They left the framework for a defense system that could only be activated by a civilization that understood both their technology and the nature of the Harvester threat. The coordinates led to hundreds of sites across the galaxy, each one containing dormant technology that could be linked together into something unprecedented. But the activation codes, the understanding needed to make the system work, remained, locked in installations that only responded to specific neural patterns. Human neural patterns, Zara realized. The predecessors built their final defense to be activated by a species that thinks like humans do. Problem solvers who look for solutions instead of just fighting. More reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The energy storms had begun, consolidating, forming massive corridors of disrupted space that pointed toward the galactic core. Deep space sensors detected enormous shapes moving within the storms, entities so large they registered as gravitational anomalies rather than physical objects. "How long do we have?" asked Delegate Tira, her rocky features showing cracks of stress. Ravi consulted the data streaming from monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Based on their approach speed and the rate of space-time disruption, the first Harvester scouts will reach inhabited systems in approximately 72 hours. The chamber fell silent as the full weight of their situation became clear. Earth had been preparing for this battle for months, working in complete isolation to avoid alerting the approaching threat to their defensive preparations. The rest of the galaxy had less than 3 days to either break through the barrier and coordinate with humanity or face extinction alone. "There has to be something we can do," Ambassador Voss declared, her voice carrying the determination that had made her Earth's representative to the galaxy. "Humans don't give up and they don't abandon their allies. If they're still working in there, it means they believe the battle can be won." Captain Thane spread his wings in the Ethon gesture of acceptance. "Then we prepare for war with an enemy we don't understand, using weapons we can't activate, to buy time for allies we can't contact." As the delegates began coordinating desperate defensive measures across their respective territories, Dr. Singh remained in his laboratory, staring at the dormant predecessor artifact. The device had shown him the scope of the threat, but it had also revealed something else. A pattern in the predecessor evacuation that suggested they hadn't given up entirely. "They're coming back," he whispered, understanding dawning in his mind. "The predecessors aren't extinct. They're returning to reclaim their galaxy, and they're counting on us to hold the line until they arrive." The galaxy's darkest hour was approaching, but for the first time since Earth went silent, there was hope. Humanity was preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy, and they weren't fighting alone. The predecessor's ancient defense network waited to be activated, and beyond the galactic rim, the original builders of that network were beginning their long journey home. Earth's silence was about to become the loudest sound in the universe, and when it broke, the Harvesters would discover that this galaxy was defended by more than just the civilizations that currently called it home. The first Harvester scout ships emerged from the energy storms like nightmares made real, their forms defying description as they shifted between dimensions and consumed the light around them. Admiral Kate Brennan watched from the bridge of the human flagship Defiance as the alien entities approached the outer rim colonies, leaving trails of dissolved reality in their wake. "Barrier drop in 30 seconds, she announced to the massive human fleet hidden within Earth's solar system. "All ships prepare for immediate deployment. Remember, we get one chance at this." For 6 months, humanity had worked in complete isolation behind their impenetrable barrier. Every resource of their civilization had been focused on a single project, creating a galaxy-wide defense network that could stop an enemy that had conquered civilizations far more advanced than their own. "Admiral, the predecessor installations are responding to our activation codes," reported Communications Officer Dex Moore, his console displaying hundreds of contact points across the galaxy. "The network is coming online." As Earth's barrier dissolved like morning mist, thousands of human ships burst forth from the solar system. But instead of fleeing or forming defensive lines, They scattered throughout the galaxy with purpose and precision. Each ship carried a single crucial component: quantum resonance generators designed to work in harmony with the ancient predecessor defense network. At Harmony Point, Ambassador Voss felt her heart leap as familiar human voices filled the communication channels for the first time in months. Harmony Point, this is Admiral Brennan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We're transmitting deployment instructions for all allied species. We need every ship, every station, and every available person to help maintain what we're about to activate. The main viewing screen lit up with tactical displays showing the approaching harvester forces. The scout ships had begun probing inhabited systems, their mere presence causing stars to flicker and planets to experience gravitational distortions. "What is your plan?" asked Captain Thane, his Ethon battle fleet already moving to intercept the nearest scouts. "The predecessors didn't flee because they were cowards," Admiral Brennan replied, her voice carrying across the galaxy through relay stations that were themselves part of the ancient network. "They evacuated because they discovered that the harvesters feed on organized energy. The more complex the civilization, the stronger the entities become. Fighting them directly only makes them more powerful." Dr. Ravi Singh, finally able to speak with his fellow humans after months of isolation, added his understanding to the explanation. "The predecessor defense network doesn't try to destroy the harvesters. It makes organized matter invisible to them. They can't consume what they can't detect." As human ships reached their designated positions throughout the galaxy, the true scope of their preparation became clear. Each vessel began deploying massive resonance generators that connected to nearby predecessor installations. The ancient technology, dormant for over 1,000,000 years, awakened to human commands and began creating a field that spanned the entire galaxy. "It's working," reported Dr. Finn from her monitoring station. "Energy readings from the harvester. Scouts are dropping. They're having trouble maintaining coherence." But the effect wasn't immediate, and the first scout to reach an inhabited system demonstrated the terrible power of the galaxy's ancient enemy. The Vorthak colony world of Harmony's Edge simply ceased to exist as the harvester passed through. Its location, not destroyed or consumed, but erased from reality as if it had never been. "All species begin quantum resonance procedures," Admiral Brennan commanded. "Every living being needs to align their bioenergy with the network frequency. The instructions are being transmitted now." What followed was the most incredible coordination effort in galactic history. Across thousands of worlds, billions of beings from 13 different species began synchronizing their life energy with the ancient predecessor network. The Vorthak sang harmonic frequencies that resonated with the quantum field. The Delaney synchronized their biorhythms with the network's pulse. Even the synthetics modified their processing cores to match the required energy patterns. The effect was immediate and miraculous. As each system came online, entire solar systems began to fade from harvester perception. The massive entities, suddenly unable to detect the organized energy they fed upon, began showing signs of confusion and hunger. "Harvester main fleet detected at the galactic rim," reported the Deep Space Monitoring Station. "Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Admiral Brennan coordinated the defense from her flagship as human engineers worked frantically to bring the entire network online. The quantum resonance field was unlike anything ever attempted. It required perfect synchronization between ancient alien technology, human innovation, and the combined life force of an entire galactic civilization. "Ethon Fleet, adjust your formation to grid pattern 7 Alpha, she commanded. "Delaney bioships, increase your organic field generators to maximum output. We need every species contributing their unique abilities to maintain network stability." Ambassador Voss found herself serving as coordinator for the civilian populations, helping entire worlds align their energy signatures with the defense grid. It was exhausting work that required absolute focus, but the alternative was extinction. The beauty of it, she realized as she watched species after species successfully integrate with the network, is that it's not a human solution forced on everyone else. It's a solution that requires all of us working together, each contributing what only we can provide. The first test came when a group of harvester scouts reached the Chitauri homeworld. The insectoid planet, now completely synchronized with the quantum resonance field, simply vanished from the entity's perception. The harvesters circled the system for hours, sensing that something should be there but unable to detect any organized energy to consume. "They're moving on," reported the Chitauri Planetary Defense Coordinator, his voice shaking with relief. "The scouts are leaving our system and heading toward the galactic rim." Similar reports came from across the galaxy as world after world achieved invisibility to the harvester perception. But the network required constant maintenance and perfect coordination. Any break in the field, any world that fell out of synchronization would become immediately visible to the approaching enemy. The real test came when the Harvester main fleet arrived at the galaxy's edge. Dr. Singh, monitoring from his research station, watched in awe as entities the size of star systems emerged from the intergalactic void. They moved through space like living gravity wells, distorting reality around them as they searched for the galactic civilization they had come to consume. "Network holding at 96% efficiency," reported Engineer Zara, her gaseous form flowing through the control systems of her monitoring station. "All species maintaining synchronization. The galaxy is effectively invisible to harvester detection." For 3 days, the massive entities searched the galaxy, growing more agitated, as they found nothing to consume. They had followed the energy trail of a thriving galactic civilization, but that civilization had vanished from their perception like a mirage. "They're starting to leave," Admiral Brennan announced, her voice carrying a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Long-range sensors show the main fleet beginning to withdraw toward the next galaxy. But humanity's plan had one more crucial element. As the harvesters began to depart, the quantum resonance network shifted its function. Instead of hiding the galaxy's life energy, it began broadcasting a false trail, artificial energy signatures, that led away from inhabited space toward empty regions between galaxies. "We're not just hiding from them," Admiral Brennan explained to the assembled Galactic Council. "We're misdirecting them toward areas where they can't cause harm to any living civilization." The strategy worked perfectly. The harvesters, desperate to feed after finding nothing in their target galaxy, followed the false energy trail into the cosmic void between galactic clusters. There, they would find nothing to sustain them and would eventually weaken enough that they could no longer threaten organized civilizations. As the last harvester entity disappeared into intergalactic space, the quantum resonance network gradually powered down, allowing the galaxy to return to normal visibility. But the bonds forged during those crucial days of coordination remained strong. "The Terran Collective is dissolved," announced Ambassador Voss during the first post-crisis council session. "In its place, we established the Galactic Union, a true partnership where every species contributes their unique abilities to our common defense and prosperity." Admiral Brennan, now serving as Earth's representative to the new galactic government, smiled as she looked around the council chamber at faces that had become more than allies during the crisis. "The silence from Earth was never meant to be permanent," she said. "We knew that when we returned it would be to a galaxy that had learned to work together without depending solely on human solutions. What we accomplished together proved that every species has irreplaceable value in our shared civilization." Dr. Singh, finally able to leave his research station and join his human colleagues, added the final piece of understanding. "The predecessors' network is still active, maintained now by all of us working together. If any similar threat ever approaches our galaxy again, we'll be ready." As the delegates dispersed to their homeworlds, carrying news of victory and plans for a more unified future, the galaxy settled into a new era of cooperation. Earth was no longer the go-to problem solver for every crisis, because every species had learned to contribute their own unique strengths to common challenges. The silence from Earth had ended not with humanity's return to their old role, but with the birth of a truly united galactic civilization where the greatest problems could only be solved by everyone working together. And in the depths of space, the ancient predecessor installations stood ready to defend a galaxy that had finally learned the most important lesson of survival: that strength comes not from individual excellence, but from perfect cooperation between diverse minds working toward a common goal.